Hey folks, welcome to another HeroPress tip of the week. This week we're going to talk about RSS, which can stand for a number of different things, but they all mean the same thing. Could be RDF site summary or really simple syndication, and I've also heard rich site syndication. But at the end of the day, they all mean the same thing. RSS is a way to mark up data so that machines can read it more easily. And we're going to walk through what it looks like and how it gets used and how it relates to WordPress. This is the Wikipedia article, and I'm going to skip right down to example and show you what RSS looks like. This is a nice, simple example. You may notice it looks a little like HTML. That's because it's XML, and HTML is a subset of XML. But at the beginning of your RSS feed, it will tell you what version of XML it is. Then it will have an RSS tag, and then at the bottom, a closing one. And then we have a channel tag, and at the bottom, a closing channel tag. And then just inside channel, we have all of these header tags. There's a title, a description, a link of where it came from, copyright, last build date, publish date, and then TTL is time to live, and that's 1800 seconds. And that's how long this file should live before it is refreshed. And right here we have what's called an item. And there's only one in this feed, but you could have many. You could have as many as you want, perhaps thousands. And each item is, for example, a blog post or a podcast item or any number of things. And each item has an open and closing tag, just like HTML. And then there's the title. There's a description, a link, a global unique identifier, which is this random number, which could be any number of things as long as it's unique. And then a publish date, which is always in this format. Now, there are many other tags that could be in an RSS file. There are a bunch of different ones that could be up in the channel. There are a bunch of different ones that could be in an item. They're not all required, but they're allowed. For example, there is another one that could go in item called enclosure, which has a source tag, and it just links out to an external file. It's basically an attachment. If that attachment is an MP3 or some other audio file, then your RSS feed magically becomes a podcast feed. That's all there is to it. Now, a good podcast feed has some additional fields like categories and whatnot, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a few minutes. But the real difference between a podcast and an RSS feed is simply the attachment of an audio file. Now let's take a look at where you can find this in WordPress. Here's the HeroPress network, and I'm going to show you two different ways. If you right-click and view page source, where you'll search for feed, and you'll see right here there are two. That's two different RSS feeds. One of them for the site as a whole, and it's actually just the blog part of it, and then one for comments. So if we click that, here is the RSS feed for the HeroPress Network site. Now, as you can see, our XML declaration is a little more complicated, but you don't need to worry about that. And I'd like to make that clear. You don't ever have to do anything to make these. WordPress creates these for you. I just wanted to show you where they are so you know how to use them. Here's our channel tag, and then there's title. Atom is a similar system of markup to RSS. You can have both together. So this is an Atom link, and then there's a regular link. Description, last build date. You can have a language tag. This tells how often it's updated, hourly, and then how many times per hour, 1. The generator is WordPress. And you can see here, this is what it looks like to have an image for the whole channel. This is not for items. This is for the whole channel. And it's 32 by 32, and it's just a JPEG. Or no, this one's a PNG, but it can be a JPEG. And then here we start with item. Title, link. Here's the comments. There's a creator tag. There's the pub date. And then because I have WordPress categories, it created some RSS category tags. Then here we have the description tag, which can either be the excerpt or the entire post. And again, here's the content, which could also be either the excerpt or the entire post. It depends on how your site is configured. In this case, we have the entire post in there. And then near the bottom of the item, we have a link to the comments feed, and then how many comments there are, and then an enclosure. Remember we talked about that with MP3s? Except this one is a PNG. So something that could be done with this RSS feed is PHP or JavaScript could pull it in, process the tags, and recreate this post. Let me show you an example. This right here, it pulls in the HeroPress RSS feed, and it prints who the author is, when it was published, what the title is, and the excerpt. Here it is for hallway chats. There's the enclosure PNG, actually a JPEG in this case, the title, the date. Same for WP podcasts. This is all being pulled in via RSS. Now, you remember right here, it's /feed. You don't have to view source to find it. You can go to any WordPress site and put in /feed and find the RSS feed for it. Not only that, everything has a feed. Let me bring up the HeroPress network again real quick. So if I click on this blog post and I click the author here, you'll see that I have several posts. If you simply put /feed at the end, here's an RSS feed of only my posts. So you can follow a specific author on any WordPress site. Let's say you do a search in WordPress. You can, right before the question mark there, put in /feed, and there you have an RSS feed for a search. So as things are added to the site that might be included in your search, your feed gets updated. We did an entire video on how to use this. I will link to it in the comments. So that's how to find RSS in WordPress. Let's look real quick here at this podcast. And you'll see that it's /feed/podcast. Now I'm using a podcast plugin called Blueberry, and that created this /podcast URL. And it also creates within the channel, right here, you'll see some iTunes information that gets parsed by iTunes, and it populates the iTunes fields. There's also some Google tags that get added. And then there are things like raw voice ratings, TVG, and things like that. Once you get into an item, again, there are a bunch of categories here. And this includes the entire content in the content. But when we get down to the bottom of the content, you will see right here is the enclosure tag linking to an MP3. It has a length so that it knows how big it is, and the type is audio MPEG. That's what makes this RSS feed a podcast. Now, it's not just WordPress sites that have RSS feeds. This is a page from the U.S. Department of Labor, and they have RSS feeds for national and regional news releases, the official blog of the U.S. Department of Labor, etc. This is the National Center for Education Statistics. They have RSS feeds. This is GovInfo, so there's congressional bills, public and private laws. All this stuff is in RSS. Every YouTube channel has an RSS feed. And additionally, just a few days ago, they released podcast feeds for each of them as well, so that the media is attached. That's going to be a game changer for podcasters. So as you can see, RSS is kind of everywhere, and you don't have to make it. Your content management system should make it for you, WordPress in our case. And next week, I'm going to show you how you can use it, not just find it. And you can use it to put content on your own website or just keep up with the news or anything you want. So make sure you come back next week. I hope you find this useful.